Welcome to Traditional Grammar. I'm Barbara Van Voorden, and this is Lesson 1. Our first few lessons are going to be spent working exclusively with the simple sentence. And in traditional grammar, when we talk about a simple sentence, we don't mean necessarily a sentence that is very easy or basic. We don't even really mean a sentence that's short necessarily. We mean specifically a sentence that has this particular structure, and that's a sentence with one subject and verb in combination. So one subject-verb combination. Now it might be a compound subject, it might be a compound verb. We'll talk about that a little bit more in upcoming lessons, but it's only one subject-verb combination. Okay, a simple sentence. So here's an example. The cat played happily. Here's our subject, here's our verb. The other words in that sentence are not subject-verb combinations. This is a simple sentence. We can't talk about sentences at all without talking about some parts of speech. And when we talk about a part of speech in grammar, we mean a classification of words that explains how those words function in a sentence. We can't have a sentence without at least one noun. And you might remember from way back that a noun is often called a person, place, or thing. That's true. Nouns are words that name person, place, thing, things. But remember too that a noun can also name an idea. Sometimes that fourth category gets left off and people forget about that. So a specific person would be something like the president, right? We can imagine this person we could see. A place would be St. Louis. A thing would be the UMSL campus. It's hard to read, isn't it? Sorry. But an idea would be something like joy or truth. An abstract concept like that. Don't forget about this fourth category of noun here, the abstract nouns, because they're not as easy to recognize as a concrete noun because you can't actually visualize them or experience them through your senses. But remember that these idea nouns, these abstract nouns, are also nouns and have the same function as nouns as the classic person, place, or thing nouns. We're going to start our discussion of nouns by thinking about nouns as subjects. And when we talk about a subject, that is not a part of speech. A subject is a function. We'll see in upcoming lessons that nouns have various functions. As I say down here, subject is one of several functions that a noun can have. But right now we're talking about the subject function. Remember that all subjects are nouns, but not all nouns are a subject. So not every noun in the sentence is going to be a subject necessarily. A subject is a noun that has a verb with it. So this is a really important one here. Remember that every subject must have a verb. If you think a noun is a subject, make sure you can find a verb for it. If you can't find a verb, it can't be a subject noun. Then it's some other kind of noun. Lesson 1 also talks about pronouns, and as your book explains, there are many different kinds of pronouns. Right now, I want you to be aware of the personal pronouns, which are these right over here. I, me, you, he, it, she, we, they. These are pronouns that replace specific nouns. What you need to be aware of at this point is that they function, there's that word again, they function the same as nouns. So they could, for example, be subjects. Remember the noun part of that word. The noun is right inside the word pronoun, so that'll help you remember that they really do have noun functions. Another part of speech that we can't have a sentence without is a verb. Verbs are usually categorized into two different areas, action verbs and existence verbs. Action verbs, as the word says here, usually convey a very specific action that you can actually visualize, as in the cat played happily. You could see the cat playing on the couch, right? Existence verbs usually are not so easy to recognize. Our most common existence verb is to be, and of course all of its irregular forms. And when that is the main verb of a sentence, it really is just expressing an idea of existing. It just kind of is like that. It's not really an action that you can see. So in our second sentence here, the cat is hungry, here's our to be verb, is. And do you see that it's the is in the second sentence is very different from the verb played in the first sentence? Here are subjects, obviously, cat in each case. The cat played, the cat is. The is in the second sentence is almost like an equal sign in the sense that it's showing us something about what's going on with that cat's existence right now. But it's not the kind of action that you can visualize in sort of a cinematic way. Right? You can see the cat playing on the couch, but you can't see the cat ising on the couch. Well, not really. Okay. So just as we said every subject must have a verb, remember this too. Every verb must have a subject. If you think a word in a sentence is a verb, make sure you can find a noun that's functioning as its subject. Because if you can't, it can't be a verb. Then it's something else. Another part of speech I want to talk about a little bit is a preposition, and your book actually doesn't talk about prepositions until lesson 2, but I think it's helpful to be aware of them now for sort of a specific reason. A preposition is a word that relates a noun to some other part of the sentence. That's not a very helpful definition, but it's easier to work with examples of prepositions than the definition of it. Prepositions are usually small words. Here are some examples: with, on, of, in. Those are words that relate a noun to something else in the sentence. So you want to remember that prepositions must exist inside phrases. And at this point, we can define a phrase as a group of words without a subject and a verb. Group of words that go together but don't have a subject and a verb. And remember that a prepositional phrase must include a noun as its object. And we're going to call that noun the object of the preposition, or OP in grammar. All right, so a preposition has to exist inside a phrase. It has to have a noun that is its object. And the preposition, as well as that object noun, is what makes up the prepositional phrase. So here are some examples of sentences that have prepositional phrases in them. The cat ran under the bus. Under the bus is prepositional. The cat slept in the tree. The guy with the pizza finally arrived. The book on the table is old. Can you see in all of those, under the bus, in the tree, with the pizza, on the table, we have the preposition itself at the beginning of the phrase, and then we have a noun that is functioning as the object of that preposition. That's our prepositional phrase. Now, in this case, these were just 3-word prepositional phrases. That's just kind of how it worked out. But we could have had more words in there, like we could have said here, the cat ran under the large orange bus, and that whole thing would still be the prepositional phrase. What you want to remember about prepositions that's going to be helpful at this point has to do with the noun that is the object of the preposition. So remember this: if a noun is functioning as an object, it cannot also be a subject at the same time in the same sentence. Okay? If a noun is functioning as an object, and right now we're talking about object of a preposition, although later we'll see other kinds of objects, it's like its role is taken for that sentence then. It can't also be a subject. So let's look at some examples. The kitten with the green collar is friendly, and both of the kittens have stripes. What's going to be really helpful for you at this point is to find the prepositional phrases first and put brackets around them. Because when you've done that, you know that you're not going to find the subject or the verb inside that bracketed chunk. It's not going to be inside the prepositional phrase. So in this first sentence, our prepositional phrase is with the green collar. Do you see that with is the actual preposition and collar is the noun that's functioning as the object of the preposition? So that's kind of its own chunk we're going to not look inside there if we're looking for the subject and the verb. Can you see that is the verb? That's one of our existence verbs, and kitten is the subject. All right? In the second example, if you weren't thinking about prepositional phrases, it might be tempting to say that kittens is the subject of the verb have, but it's not. Do you see why grammatically kittens could not possibly be the subject of have? It kind of sounds like it is. I mean, we're saying that the kittens have stripes, but grammatically, structurally, it can't possibly be. And that's because it's inside this prepositional phrase, of the kittens. So kittens is an object of the preposition inside the prepositional phrase, which means it could not possibly also be a subject. So our subject actually is both. Both have. But in this last example, both of the kittens have stripes. You can see how being aware of the prepositional phrase and bracketing that off will really help you see the sort of skeletal structure of the sentence. The subject and the verb are going to pop out at you more clearly if you do that. The book is not going to tell you to put brackets around your prepositional phrases, but it's a really helpful way of approaching these sentences, especially when you're a beginner at locating subjects and verbs. Because if you don't, and you just kind of read the sentence for meaning, you might be tempted to say that something like kittens here is the subject of the verb, when structurally it can't be. Okay, so keep that tip in mind about the prepositional phrases. Talk to you next time.